And good morning. Just before we get started, I wanted to make a quick reminder to members and staff who are not speaking to mute their microphone. Members and other panelists do have the ability to unmute themselves when they need to speak, and we ask that you mute yourself again when not speaking to avoid background noise. If I detect background noise, I will go ahead and mute you to save time and interruptions. There are members of the public in the audience, and meeting minutes are being taken. So I ask board members and staff, or bureau members and staff, to please identify yourself before speaking. To see who's in the meeting, you can access the participant list by hovering your cursor over the bottom center of your WebEx screen, or simply click on the icon that looks like a person's head and shoulders. By clicking on that icon, it should display the participant list on the right side of your computer screen. And this participant list will also display a green microphone next to the individual who's currently speaking. This can be helpful to distinguish who's speaking or trying to contribute to the conversation. And public comment will be managed by myself, and when Patrick asks for public comment, we'll turn on the WebEx Q&A feature. A box will appear in the lower right of your screen, and don't worry, we will display instructions at the time. So I'm going to begin recording the meeting. It will make a fairly loud announcement. Thank you.
This meeting is being recorded.
I believe you're muted still, Patrick.
I do that once a day, if not more than that. Thank you, moderator. Good morning and welcome to the Bureau of Automotive Repair first quarterly advisory group meeting for 2022. I want to wish everyone a happy new year. It seems a little bit silly this late into the month to be wishing everyone that, but we last convened in October and it's been some time since I've had the opportunity and pleasure of seeing all of you, and I hope everyone had a really enjoyable holiday season and a safe and healthy one as well. The Dore household was quite a sickly holiday season, starting with my mother coming to town for a week and having acute bronchitis, which gave us all a scare, but she survived, as did we, but a lot of other things going around the household during the holidays, but all is well, and it's been a quite exciting and busy start to the new year. So I'm happy we're all meeting here today. Unfortunately, still in the virtual format, but at some point get back to meeting in person and enjoy those network opportunities and just those face-to-face interactions that we, I'm sure, all miss. But stay tuned. We'll get some directions, perhaps, from the administration as to the ability to meet in person at our next meeting. We have a busy agenda today, and I'm really excited that we've got a number of panelists, not just here at Barr, but we have an excellent presentation coming from DMV on some new news about a program that they have recently rolled out. In fact, it just hit the news this week, so some of you may or may not have heard about their online renewal process that they're going to share with us today and get some feedback and input from the advisory group. Before we do, we'll do some quick introductions. I wanted to say thank you and welcome and good morning to our moderator, Ann Fisher from the Department of Consumer Affairs. Our co-moderator is none other than Zach Richardson from our Barr Executive Office here. We'll go through the list. I'm just going down the list of folks who are listed in the panelist room. and I'll go in order of the ones listed. Anthony Bento, representing the California New Car Dealers Association.
Glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Yep. Dave Kusa with the Automotive Service Councils of California. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Pat. Good morning, everyone.
David Robinette. And David represents the group that's more easily referred to as ICAR, but I'll spell that out for everyone. It's the Inter-Industry Conference on Auto Collision Repair.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you, Pat.
Yes. Johan Gallo with the California Automotive Business Coalition, otherwise known as CalABC.
Good morning, Pat, and Happy New Year to everybody. And it looks like we're going to have a busy day. Thank you.
Gary Conover. Gary is representing the California Automotive Wholesalers Association, otherwise known as CAWA.
Good morning, Pat. Good morning, everybody.
Jack Molodonov, a man who needs no introduction, and that's apparently why he has left his association off his name here, but he is representing the California Auto Body Association.
Good morning.
Hi, Jack.
Hi.
We have also joining us today Jeff Cox with the AMRA-MAP group. That's spelled out is the Automotive Maintenance and Repair Association Motorist Assurance Program.
Morning, Pat. Glad to be here.
Good morning to you. Also joining us, Joanna Johnson with the Automotive Oil Change Association.
Good morning, Pat. Great to be here.
Nice to have you. Thank you, Joanna. Louis Anapolsky with the firm Knox, Lemon, Anapolsky, and Shrimp, LLP, but also the California Midas Dealers Association, CMDA. Hi, Lou.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Patrick.
Megan McKernan with the Automobile Club of Southern California.
Good morning, Pat. Good morning, everybody.
Hello. Nikki, and last name is Ayers, Ayers. It's just showing up as Nikki, IAPA, and IAPA stands for the Independent Automotive Professionals Association.
Hi, Pat, and everyone.
Morning. And Vince Gregory with AAA of Northern California.
Good morning, Pat. Good to see you. Good morning, everyone.
All right. Good morning to all of you. I believe I captured all of the representatives. I know there are some alternates who are standing in the audience or in the participant list, not necessarily showing up as panelists, but they are certainly welcome and most likely going to participate at some point in the meeting. That is it for those who are attending today. We had some announcements to make. I think a couple of individuals were expected to be retiring on our advisory group, and the ones that that are not here today that I should probably announce are George Ritz with the California Automotive Teachers, CAT, and then Ruben Parra, also with the California Automotive Teachers. And I don't know if that's an official announcement of that they've retired or not, but we are not represented, as best I can tell, by anyone from CAT. And until I hear otherwise on a replacement for one or both of those individuals, we will we'll just we'll miss their presence today, and hope that we can get someone from the California Automotive Teachers at our next meeting in April. We'll have a new appointment hopefully made by then. Before we get started, a little bit of sad news for me personally, and I'm sure some of you had the fortunate ability to meet Gary Hunter. I was informed just yesterday by Carol Hunter, Gary's wife, that Gary had passed away earlier this month. In fact, on January 3rd, I believe. And it was really caught me off guard and quite surprising news to learn this. Gary was I worked with Gary for a number of years. He was a deputy chief here at the Bureau under my first stint as bureau chief back in the early 2000s and late 1990s when he was initially appointed. He worked in the smog check program for a number of years. He also he had the distinction of having the very first, as Gary said to me, the very first smog check technician license. He was 001 or something like that. It was quite a kind of an odd but funny, and he was very proud of it. The fact that he had that initial license, Barr technician license, in the smog check program. He worked for a number of years at the California Air Resources Board. I know he did some volunteer work at the sheriff's office and probably other agencies that since I do not have an obituary, I can't list all of them, but I know he did a lot of extensive work, public service, and was just a outstanding, all around, really good guy. Not just a coworker, but I considered him a mentor and a friend. And we used to go to lunch and have really good just talks about just life in general, but some work stuff too. And he was always very helpful to me in my career. And so it's really with very sadness today that I share this information with you. My heart and prayers, thoughts, and everything go out to Carol, his wife. Sean, who is his son, is an employee with the Bureau of Automotive Repair in our Sacramento field office. And again, thoughts and prayers to the entire Hunter family. I'll just ask if you'll indulge me for a moment to have a moment of silence in Gary's honor. Thank you. All right, let's proceed with the agenda. We'll start.
If you would bear with us, an attendee named Mike Flanagan has his hand raised. Shall I check in and see what he needed?
Yeah, Mike might want to say a few words about Gary. I know they knew each other and spent some time working many years together.
And you're unmuted, Mike.
Well, this is Mike. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Can.
Boy, going back a long way. We kicked off with Gary and under Chief Grow and John Wallach and Doug Lowy. We kicked off the smog check program, and it was a lot of fun, a lot of work, and I've continued to over the years meet up with Gary, and this is news to me. And wonderful guy. So sad. My prayers out to his family. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you, Mike, for those words. At the time that I get any information about a gathering or a service that's more than just a family one, if there is such an event, I will pass that on.
Thanks, Pat.
All right, let's continue with the agenda. DCA news and updates here from the Department of Consumer Affairs Executive Office is Brianna Miller. Welcome. Good morning, Brianna.
Thank you. Good morning. And I'll just first apologize in advance. The Miller household has also been a sickly household, so if my voice goes during this update, I apologize. But I'll get started. Good morning and Happy New Year, Advisory Group members. I'm Brianna Miller with the Department of Consumer Affairs' Board and Bureau Relations. Thank you for allowing me an opportunity to provide a brief department update to you today. The first topic I will discuss with you is COVID-19 safety measures. And in doing so, I'd like to first start by saying thank you. DCA appreciates all staff, board members, and advisory committee members who have continued to diligently serve through a pandemic that has affected all of us in so many ways. So thank you for your continued dedication to consumer protection. And regarding COVID-19 safety measures, state employees must show proof of vaccination or be subject to regular COVID-19 testing. The California Department of Public Health, or CDPH, is requiring masks to be worn in all indoor public settings until February 2022, regardless of vaccination status. DCA's testing program kicked off in early October at DCA headquarters and has expanded to additional sites and home testing as well. We are working together to find the right balance of staying connected and productive while keeping safe and healthy. DCA and all of its boards and bureaus continue to look to the future and use lessons learned to identify long-term efficiencies and policy changes. Staff are working in the office to provide the most effective consumer protection and customer service while also utilizing telework where appropriate. And moving on to an update on remote meetings. DCA recognizes the difficulty of planning for remote meetings as the pandemic continues to evolve. On January 5th, Governor Newsom signed an executive order that extends the sunset date in Assembly Bill 361. Under this new order, boards and committees are permitted to continue holding public meetings via WebEx without listing any board member or committee member locations through March 31st of this year. And additionally, Sacramento County issued a local order on January 6 directing public boards, committees, and similar public bodies to suspend any in-person meetings that might otherwise be held within Sacramento County and to hold them remotely. After March 31st, we expect that meetings will resume in person in accordance with all aspects of the Open Meetings Act. Next, vaccination verification. Before attending an in-person meeting, board and committee members must verify full vaccination with DCA's Office of Human Resources or participate in COVID-19 testing. Please don't wait until the next in-person meeting is planned to address this. Rather, DCA requests that all members submit their vaccination verification by January 31st to allow enough time to plan a COVID-19 testing for those who need it. On behalf of the department, I want to express our appreciation for the flexibility of members and staff. And finally, I'd like to announce a new DCA executive appointment. I am happy to report that on January 26th, DCA announced the appointment of Tanya Corcoran as the DCA Compliance and Equity Officer. This is a brand new position that will provide leadership and policy direction related to quality improvement measures such as performance assessment, quality assurance, incident management, risk management, and regulatory compliance. The DCA Compliance and Equity Officer will also oversee DCA's Solid Training Services, Organizational Improvement Office, Equal Employment Opportunity Office, and the Internal Audit Office. Ms. Corcoran brings to this position invaluable expertise and years of experience serving in many leadership roles with the department and its boards and bureaus, including previously serving at the Bureau of Automotive Repair. Ms. Corcoran will transition to this role effective March 2nd. And that concludes my brief update to you today. As always, Board and Bureau Relations is here to help, and if there's anything we can do to assist your bureau or your advisory group, please do not hesitate to reach out. Thank you, and I'll hand it back over to Bureau Chief DeRay.
Thank you, Brianna, for the update. Are there any questions, comments from the Bureau Advisory Group? Any question? We can open it up, moderator, Ms. Fisher, to the public, the participants.
Certainly. So if a member of the public would like to make a comment, they can click on the icon of a question mark and a square at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or if you're on a mobile device, behind the three-dot other options, or if you are telephoning in, you can use *3 to raise your hand, and we will recognize people in the order received. We ask a member of the public to announce their name, And please note that the Q&A feature is only a means for the public to represent that they would like to make a comment. Once unmuted, they can state their comment, but this is not a means to ask questions of the moderator or members of the board. We'll give people a moment to locate that. And I do not see any requests for public comment at this time. Shall I close the Q&A feature?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, you're off the hook, Brianna. Thank you very much for the update.
Thank you.
All right, let's move ahead with the agenda. Our next presentation is from Holly O'Connor from our executive office here at the Bureau of Automotive Repair. And Holly will give her regular legislation and regulations update.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Holly O'Connor, the Legislative and Regulatory Specialist here at Barr. And as Chief Dre just said, I'll be providing a legislation update as well as an update on our pending regulatory packages. Okay, there we go. These are some notable dates. January 1st, bills took effect. On January 3rd, the legislature reconvened. And January 21st, bills that were introduced in 2021 must have passed out of the first house to continue forward or they died. And before beginning, I want to quickly say that although every effort is made to ensure that the information provided on our slides is the most current, given the nature of the legislative process, hearing dates or bill summaries shown here may not reflect the latest updates. For current bill information, you can go to www.leginfo.legislature.ca.gov. Okay, of the 2021 bills that we were tracking, these three were chaptered. Later this morning, there will be a presentation regarding AB 471. SB 586 we were tracking, but all provisions that pertain to the Bureau were removed. And SB 607 that was chaptered extends our sunset review period by 1 year. Here's a list of the bills that we have been tracking so far in 2022, and I will go over each of them. The first one, AB 220, would exempt motor vehicles manufactured between 1976 and 1983 from the smog check if the owner can provide proof that the vehicle is insured as a collector car. And this exemption currently applies only to pre-1976 vehicles. This bill was re-referred to the Assembly Committee on Transportation back in April of 2021. AB 294 is the Vehicle Towing and Storage Act. This bill is no longer moving forward and has died. The next one is AB 467. This would exempt vehicles from smog check that have been issued a license plate for historic exhibition that have an engine of 16 or more cylinders manufactured prior to 1965, for vehicles manufactured prior to 1923, or for vehicles manufactured after 1922 that are at least 25 years old and of historic interest. The next bill is AB 646. 2 days ago, on January 25th, this bill was ordered to a third reading by the Assembly. This bill states that if a person's license is revoked due to a criminal conviction, but that person has obtained an expungement, the Bureau may charge a $25 fee for administering this section and must remove the initial website posting of the license revocation. And if the person reapplies for licensure or has been relicensed, the Bureau must post a notification of the expungement order on our website. AB 745 would require the Air Resources Board to provide low-income low-income people living in disadvantaged communities, vouchers to be used to purchase zero-emission vehicles that fail their smog check inspection, so long as the repair cost of each replaced vehicle is greater than the maximum amount provided by the Bureau's Consumer Assistance Program. The latest update on this, a hearing was postponed in May of 2021. AB 1622, this was introduced on January 10th, 2022. This was referred to the Assembly Committee on January 20th and was revised by the co-authors on January 24th of this year. This bill would require the department to provide smog check stations a sign informing customers about strategies for deterring catalytic converter theft. This bill would authorize stations to offer and recommend to customers identifying information as an optional service provided in conjunction with the smog check. That is all that I have for the legislative update. Are there any questions at this time?
I will just jump in here, Holly. Thank you for the update on the bills that we are tracking. If there are any other bills that you would like us to track that have been introduced, please let us know. This is a good opportunity to do that so that Holly can add it to the list. Certainly, we're very interested in the huge piece of reform legislation, AB 471, that was signed into law back in September of last year and was chaptered and took effect January 1st of this year. There are some delayed start dates for a couple of the provisions. I won't get into all of those pieces because our next presenter, Matthew Gibson, will give an update on all of the provisions and our strategies and expectations in terms of getting the regulations developed and adopted to implement those provisions that require regulations, as well as any things that we can do administratively to implement those provisions. So, any questions, comments from the Barr Advisory Group as it relates to the legislative portion of Holly's update?
We do have a hand raised from Jack Molodinoff.
I see Jack and Johan Gallo. Yeah, let's go with Jack first. I see his name, saw his name first.
Thank you. Thanks, Holly. I know that you put this presentation out 10 days ago or a couple of weeks ago, and the deadline for bills is in February. There was another catalytic converter bill. It's AB 1659 that was introduced, and that one would basically say that if you have 2 used catalytic converters lying around your shop, you would have to become a auto dismantler. And I anticipate additional catalytic converter bills being introduced, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I'm sure you would have seen it anyway. You may have already seen it, but just wanted to bring it to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. How about Johan Gallo from Cal ABC?
Good morning, everybody. To Jack's point on the issues with catalytic converters, and it's a rampant problem everywhere throughout the United States. But one of the things we want to be working with the authors on these bills for is, while it's important for the smog shops to have signs posted about how to prevent and safeguard your catalytic converter, we have talked about engraving and other things that law enforcement is doing to help stem some of these thefts. But I think it's important that every bill that gets introduced has a component that deals with the criminal aspects of it. Right now, we're pushing all the responsibility over to smog shops to inform consumers about what they can do. But we also think that all bills should include what happens to these people when they finally do get caught and how they're prosecuted. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anybody else from the Bar Advisory Group? Don't see any hands raised. We'll proceed with Holly's presentation, and then we'll open it up for public for all of the portions of your presentation, Holly.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now I'll go over our regulatory proposals, beginning with the smog check, equipment security, and fraud prevention, also known as our biometrics package, which I think most of you are familiar with. But the purpose is to require the use of biometric and web camera devices when performing a smog check. It requires that smog check stations allow Barr access whenever inspections are being performed, even if the inspections are being performed outside of normal business hours. This would require that smog check inspectors allow Barr staff remote access to the inspection via the internet when prompted by the Barr OIS software. This package was submitted to OAL on December 31st, 2021, and we are hoping that it will be finalized and approved by mid-February. Okay, the next one, okay, is our STAR program. This one deletes outdated Gold Shield program provisions. It amends STAR eligibility criteria and revises the STAR suspension process to be consistent with statute. This package was submitted to OAL on December 7th.
You got an email on a meeting that needs to be set up, yeah, for 4 o'clock today.
Okay, this one was submitted to OAL December 7th, and this one we are also hoping to finalize with OAL and have approved in mid-February. And next is our smog repair assistance. This package was approved by OAL and filed with the Secretary of State last week on January 20th. Our laws and regulations training package amends Barr disciplinary guidelines to establish laws and regulations training as a rehabilitative option for respondents. Administrative law judges and Barr would have the option to require training in compliance with the Automotive Repair Act and Barr regulations as a condition of probation or relicensure. This package was submitted to OAL on November 2nd, and we're expecting to finalize this by late April of this year. This package, our auto body equipment and supplemental restraint systems, would require auto body repair shops to have access to current equipment and reference materials and meet current trade standards for the work being performed. We're currently working on this package with DCA Legal to resolve any issues that we're facing with it. The Citations for Automotive Repair Dealers package extends Barr's citation program to cover ARD violations of the Automotive Repair Act. Also, we're working on the final text of this package due to the passing of AB 471, and we will be submitting to DCA Legal for their review. The storage fees package establishes and clarifies the ARD's ability to charge fees for unpaid repair debt and storage and safekeeping of a motor vehicle. We're working on the text pending the possible enactment of legislative amendments related to this proposal. And the final package I'm going to go over is our auto body and windshield repair package. Also, we are working on forming the text and plan on holding a second public workshop on this package, which would define reconditioned part and require that all auto body and windshield repairs meet accepted trade standards for good and workmanlike repair. And yeah, again, we're working on forming the text for this package, and again, plan on having another workshop. That's my update for our regulatory packages, and I'm happy to answer any questions related to these.
Thank you, Holly, for the presentation. Very good. I know that's hard to nail down some of these, the status of some of these legislative and regulatory efforts because of the ever evolving movement of them through the legislature and or through our regulatory approval process, and we have to get this information posted 10 days before the meeting, so there are changes that we have to monitor in between that, the posting of the agenda and your presentation and the actual meeting date today. So thank you for giving the, at least of trying to keep up to date with a verbal update of those developments on some of those items. You mentioned it, but I should have given it its proper introduction at the start of the meeting. We will, after the meeting, have a regulatory public workshop on a proposed regulation that we've shared with you and had prior workshops dealing with the extension of our citation program to violations of the Automotive Repair Act. Currently, citations are just issued for unlicensed or unregistered activity, as well as violations of the smog check program. And so looking to extend that, but it's been expanded to include some provisions of AB 471, Assemblymember Lowe's bill that was referenced earlier, namely the establishment of an informal appeal process for Barr-issued citations for violations of the Automotive Repair Act. And that informal appeal process would be heard by a 3-member panel made up of a representative from Barr, a consumer organization, as well as a representative from the automotive repair industry. So looking forward to that public workshop that will follow today's Barr Advisory Group meeting today, starting promptly at 2 o'clock. It's scheduled to go till 3:30 or until the close of business if it takes us longer than 3:30. All right, having now shared that bit of information, I want to open it up for questions from the Barr Advisory Group, questions or comments relating to Holly's, the second half of her presentation dealing with our regulations. Any questions or comments? Let's see. I don't see any, so we'll open it up for public comment on anything relating to Holly's presentation, both on the legislative as well as the regulatory side. Any questions or comments from the public?
And we've opened up the Q&A feature of WebEx. If you'd like to make a comment, you can put the word, look for the Q&A icon in the lower right corner of your computer screen, or if you're on a mobile device, behind the 3-dot other options. And in the text box, type the word comment and send, and we will take comments in the order received. And if you are a call-in user on your cell phone, you can hit *3 if you're not using the WebEx app. If you're using the app, you should have access to the Q&A feature. And I do not see any requests for public comment. Shall I close that?
Yes, you may. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Also want to point out we were joined a few minutes ago during the presentation by Ruben Parra. And Ruben, I started off the meeting not seeing you, so I thought maybe you had left the organization, California Automotive Teachers, but welcome to the meeting today.
Thank you. As you know, we run into some technical difficulties sometimes, but I'm here. Thank you.
Fantastic. Good to see you. I don't believe there are any other attendees who've joined, so I just will move forward with the agenda. Thank you very much, Holly, for that presentation.
Thank you.
All right, the moment many have been waiting for, certainly myself. It's been of a crazy start to the new year, starting with just getting our heads wrapped around, and actually well in advance of the new year. The moment the bill was chaptered, AB 471, last fall, we wanted to, well, I wanted to name someone other than myself who would share in the responsibility, who would be the single point of contact, working with our stakeholders to get input on what is going to be a very busy and involved effort to get all of the provisions implemented timely, with all of the input, as I say, from all of our stakeholders. And the first order of business for me was to create a position that the department supported us on, and I was happy to have gone through the hiring process and got that taken care of pretty quickly in almost record time, and had Matthew Gibson. Many of you know Matthew from his extensive background in the Bureau's enforcement program, both in field operations as well as our centralized enforcement operations branch. Probably some other areas of the Bureau that I'm leaving out, but he was appointed, well, I don't even remember the date, but it was shortly after the bill was signed and within a month or so of the bill's signing. And so he has hit the ground running to start working on the various implementation needs of this very critical bill to us. And starting with this workshop that we'll have a presentation at later today. So Matthew, why don't you go through all of the as you have laid out with me this presentation, and we've gone through it a few times. I hope it captures everything. If there's a couple of things that are missing, we are certainly all ears and want to get your input, but there's at the end of the presentation, as it relates to the vehicle safety inspection program, there's a few questions in particular that Matthew wants to raise that don't necessarily have to be answered today, but he'll be certainly seeking anyone who's attending today, whether you're a Barr advisory group member or someone from the public seeking your input. So welcome, Matt, or Matthew Gibson.
Thanks, Pat. And as Pat said, I'm Matthew Gibson. I'm a program manager in Barr's executive office, and I would be covering Barr's strategy for implementation of the provisions contained within Assembly Bill 471. My PowerPoint today is 10 slides, and I'll cover the component parts of Assembly Bill 471, how those components interact with proposals we were already working on, and Barr's strategy to get all of these components and proposals implemented in the time frame specified in the Assembly Bill. So, Assembly Bill 471 was signed into law by Governor Newsom on September 28th of last year. No sooner than July 1st of 2023, it creates a 3-member panel for informal review of ARD citations. It creates a vehicle safety inspection and certification program by January 1st of 2024. It creates a remedial training process and certification program for remedial training providers. It requires recognition of educational certifications on the ARD application. And it requires a valid automotive repair dealer registration to charge storage fees. So on the proposed ARD citation program, since January 2020, Barr has worked towards implementing an ARD citation program. At the October 2020 BAG meeting, I gave a presentation about the automotive repair citation concept. And during that presentation, I expressed Barr's rationale for developing an ARD citation program, and that included the establishment of an additional enforcement option to address concerning violations that Barr identifies that by themselves were not rising to the level warranting disciplinary action, and also a way to provide consumers with additional information so they can make a more informed decision when choosing an auto repair shop. In April and July of last year, we had public workshops on the proposed ARD citation regulation language. Okay. And we are going to have the third workshop encompassing the changes made as a result of the passage of Assembly Bill 471 this afternoon. And that will cover an informal appeal process for ARD citations that did not previously exist, and a 3-member panel to review informal appeals. And that panel will consist of a representative from Barr, from industry, and the public. So Vehicle Safety Inspection Program. So as required under Assembly Bill 471, our regulations will combine the lamp and brake inspection programs into one program, allow Barr to add other vehicle systems for inspection, and move Barr from a paper to an electronic certificate of compliance for these inspections. I do want to say that Barr is extremely interested in industry's input regarding the development of this program. And as Pat had mentioned, we have specific questions about its implementations that we'll cover later in this presentation. On the remedial training and provider certification, we are going to be developing regulations that will create a remedial training program to prevent disclosure of an ARD citation for a violation Barr deems to be minor in nature, but that would only be available once every 18 months. We'll establish the required content for remedial training course, and develop a certification process for remedial training providers. We have already been working on drafting these regulations, and I can tell you that the remedial training course looks like an 8-hour class that will be provided by a Barr certified provider or instructor on compliance with Barr's laws and regulations. As for ARD application and educational certifications, our regulations will detail additional information required on the ARD application, like, for example, an email address or the the license plate on mobile automotive repair dealers. It will create a process for Barr to accept and connect educational and professional certifications to Barr issued ARD registrations, and we will have to determine how to link all the newly required information to the Barr's Auto Shop locator. So on storage fees, so since the passage of Assembly Bill 2392 back in 2018, Barr has been working to provide guidance to the automotive industry on storage fees. So in the October 2018 BAG meeting, I gave a presentation about storage and towing fees and lien sales. And during that presentation, I reviewed changes made to 3 vehicle code sections as a result of Assembly Bill 2392. And I reviewed when it was and was not appropriate to charge storage fees and when fees were reasonable and when fees were not reasonable. In spring of 2019, we wrote an article for the Auto Repair Smog Check newsletter for storage fees and lien sales. I will tell you that that article best communicates Barr's position on storage fees and lien sales. When I receive questions from insurance companies, from consumers, from body shops, I refer them to that article or I email them a link to that article, so I know that everybody is seeing the same information about where Barr stands on this issue. In October of 2021, we had a public workshop on the proposed storage fee regulations, and the Assembly Bill 471 modified Business and Professions Code Section 984.16 to add a valid registration requirement as a prerequisite for an automotive repair dealer to charge storage fees in accordance with applicable laws. I do just want to reiterate, we do accept and investigate complaints regarding storage fees issues just like any other type of complaint. We can make recommendations on our findings and have taken disciplinary action against ARDs that have charged inappropriate and unreasonable storage fees. So, given the regulations that we need to develop as a result of Assembly Bill 471, we have prioritized our regulation packages into 3 groups. So the first group is relating to the regulations that need to be in place to implement the ARD citation program as intended by Assembly Bill 471. Since we're looking at a July 1st, 2023 implementation date for the ARD citation program, these 3 regulation packages are the highest priority. So the ARD citation program, the remedial training program and provider certification, and the ARD application and educational certifications. The second group may only have one regulation package for the vehicle safety inspection program, but given where we're starting from in the implementation of the new vehicle safety inspection program, and the fact that we're looking at an implementation date of January 1st of 2024, this is my next regulatory priority, but I'm planning on starting to draft those regulations in mid-March. And group 3 is the regulations I'm looking to work on next year, unless priorities change for some unknown reason or if there's other things we need to include. And that would include the storage fee regulations, and we'll also need to update our disciplinary guidelines as a result of all the other changes. So in order to complete the regulation development process as efficiently as possible, Barr plans more frequent regulatory workshops in 2022. Notification about upcoming regulatory workshops will be posted to Barr's website and sent to those on Barr's mailing list. And there's the link to the email address on the slide. I don't know if it's really clear, but it is, well, I'm not going to go through the whole email address. I will just say the last part is email_list_signup, because it may not be clear on the slide as you're looking at on your screen. Proposed regulation language and any other presentation materials will be posted to Barr's website 10 calendar days prior to the workshops. And to that end, the regulatory workshop today, so after our regulatory workshop today on the proposed ARD citation program, we are planning our next regulatory workshop to be on the proposed remedial training and provider certification regulations, and hopefully also the ARD application regulations. We are looking to do one or both of those by the first week of March. But as it says in the slide, there will be notifications on our website or sent out by email about those workshops. All right, so these questions. So to assist Barr in developing the vehicle safety inspection program, we request your feedback on these questions. So beyond the brake and lamp inspection, what additional systems or items should be inspected as part of the vehicle safety inspection program? So I will tell you that over the past couple of months, I've done a few presentations and I have been asking this question. There's several factors we're considering when we're looking to possibly adding additional systems to the first phase of the vehicle safety inspection program implementation. So such as the additional equipment costs that for safety inspection stations. At a minimum, they're going to need additional equipment to accommodate moving from a paper certificate to an electronic certificate. The second factor would be the additional expense of the inspection itself to consumers. The third factor would be the ability to ensure that the additional systems that we would add can be inspected reliably and accurately. I will say that ADAS is a recommendation that comes up frequently, and I'd be happy to discuss the addition of ADAS to the vehicle safety inspection, but its inclusion, as well as the inclusion of any other systems, will be weighed against the factors we are considering during the first phase of implementation. The next question is, what process should Barr use to verify the vehicle receiving the safety certification was inspected? How does Barr verify that the licensed inspector was the one who performed the safety inspection? I don't want to paint with too broad of a brush here. I know that there are brake and lamp stations that take their responsibility seriously. But given my personal experience both performing and overseeing investigations of brake and lamp stations and the cases that I was reviewing while I was in the Enforcement Operations Branch, I know that we need a legitimate answer to those two questions. And we do not want to import issues from the brake and lamp programs into our vehicle safety program. And last question I have on the slide was, what is the best way to transition from our current brake and lamp station adjuster licenses to a new vehicle safety inspection license? But one other issue came up after we posted the presentation, and that was that when we were reviewing the provisions of the brake and lamp inspection programs, we have no way of telling how often brake and lamp adjusting stations are signing off on fix-it tickets, if they are at all. And that's just the nature of the paper certificates. So in order to get an answer to this question, we set up a survey, which we sent out through an ET blast to smog check 668 smog check stations that are also lamp and brake adjusting stations. And so if you did get that survey, I would hope that you could please log in and complete it so that we can figure out the answer to the fix-it ticket question. I don't know that we're going to take time out of bag to go over these 4 questions. So on the next slide is my email address, and so please, if you want, please email me your thoughts on to those questions. would be greatly appreciated. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I found that really helpful and valuable for me. It's hard to keep track of all of these provisions, and I'm sure it's a lot of balls floating in the air on this, and it's nice to have you, Matt, keeping us on track and on point. And I hope that the audience and Barr Advisory Group members in particular found that useful. Are you looking for comments, I'm sure, to help you get the process jump-started for the development of the regulations on the Vehicle Safety Inspection Program? You want comments or answers to those questions within a couple of weeks, say around the middle of February, like February 15th, for example?
Yeah, actually, that would be fine. And thank you, Pat. Yeah, you're right. I probably should have put a bookend on that request. But yeah, if I could get them by February 15th, that would be good.
I mean, obviously, we're going to take comments throughout the process, but to help Matt put pen to paper or fingers to the keyboard and start drafting some of this and get us going moving forward, I think it would be helpful to get some comments early on. So, yeah, respectfully request that if you have some thoughts or responses to those questions, including the additional question that he raised with respect to fix-it tickets, we would love to hear those by February 15th. And then I had a question, more a point of clarification for everyone's benefit on slide 5. And then we'll open it up for comment.
I don't have control over the...
Zach is working on that.
There we go.
I think it would be, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I know at least one of the Barr Advisory Group members can comment on this if you aren't able to. On the first sub-bullet, create a remedial training program to prevent disclosure. I believe that provision sunsets after so much time, a couple of years, for example, and that Barr will certainly have to explain to the legislature how that is working to potentially resurrect it with follow-on legislation. Is that correct?
That is correct, actually, yeah. It will be, it's sunsetted, I believe, by 2025.
Okay. So...
Yeah, I think that's right.
So those regulations, once they're adopted, just say for sake of discussion, if they somehow got adopted by January 1 of 2023, that provision would expire, you're saying January of 2025?
Yeah, I believe that's right. I mean,
So it'd be only in place for a couple of years. Maybe Jack would care to comment on that if we're incorrect in any way.
The only thing I'll add before, and I hope Jack would chime in on this, I will say that this provision actually wouldn't really be in full effect until July 1st of 2023 because of its tie-in to the ARD citation informal appeal process. So yeah, the way it was drafted, the way those statutes are written, there is only kind of a short window to verify it's working before we have to go back to the legislature and say, we should continue it or not.
Right. Thank you very much for that. Okay. I just wanted to make sure we shared that because it is not an indefinite, never-ending provision of this bill. It is going to go away unless otherwise continued by the legislature. All right. Let's open it up for questions, comments from the Barr Advisory Group. I will start with the first hand I saw again raised was Jack Maladona from the California Auto Body Association. Welcome.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. Just to follow up on your comments with regard to the remedial training. Yes, the bill was amended actually in the Senate Judiciary Committee, and I believe the period of time is for 3 years, just to make sure there. I don't have the dates in front of me right now. I don't have the bill in front of me, but yes, it is only for. It will sunset, and the committee, the Judiciary Committee, really wanted to make sure and see how the program was working. They were very concerned that when you take off from the internet, the website, when you're removing the citations from on the remedial program, that they wanted to make sure there's transparency and integrity in terms of the training and how it's going to work. So they took it very seriously. So I think that remedial training, the providers of the training, I think all has to be taken, obviously very seriously. A lot of transparency there. It can't just be some sort of minimal type of training. It has to be something that has a lot of integrity and it's real, because the BAR will be questioned on this, and the legislature will look at to make sure that the compliance remedial training is substantive and is working. So yeah, and I look forward to working with the. I know, and the other stakeholders look forward to working on that training, the training regulations. And with regard to your questions, the questions regarding the vehicle inspection program, Matt, I know the intent there was that the inspection cover a lot of the visual things that you can see on a vehicle. For example, I know they had talked about inspecting glass, whether there's cracked glass, windshields, or any kind of glass, or making sure the car has seat belts, mirrors, maybe making sure the tires are safe. And I know we have a standard for that. Making sure that the car has the vehicle has airbags, and if the airbag, I understand that the program itself currently and the brake and lamp program, that inspectors right now currently will pass vehicles, and these are primarily vehicles we're talking about, are rebuilt salvage vehicles now. This is not open to the world. We're focused on rebuilt salvage vehicles that they'll pass the brake and lamp and smog, but maybe they have the brake or the airbag light is on, which something that it may fail. I've also heard that some shops will see a vehicle visually and they'll know that this thing wasn't repaired correctly. The frame is off, kind of a visual. So I don't know whether maybe consideration would be given to the inspector if they see something very unusual visually, that they have the ability to fail it, so that's something to consider as well. But I know basically there was a lot of visual discussion, which would keep the cost down. And then the only other thing is whether they need to do an OBD test of some sort underneath with the vehicle. That may be something for discussion. But those are sort of my comments based on the legislation and sort of the legislative intent. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
It's very helpful, Jack. I appreciate those comments, and we'll look forward to any additional comments you want to provide over the next couple of weeks to get those to Matt and myself. That would be helpful. You were very instrumental in this bill, and thank you for all of your efforts, as well as our next commenter from the Barr Advisory Group, Gary Conover with the California Automotive Wholesalers Association.
Thanks.
Good morning, Gary.
All right. Thanks, Pat. Along the same line of thinking, I want to move into more of the regulatory aspect of the vehicle safety inspection program. And on page 10, we do have these questions. Could we get a little bit more background on the questions? Are these going to go out officially to the public? Are they for BAG members only? How is this going to be implemented?
Well, I would say that the BAG presentations for BAG members, but also for any members of the public that attend. And so this is how I'm asking those questions of the BAG and also the public in general.
And is the public's notice simply through for the bag meeting today, or how are you going to post something on your website?
Well, these are just questions right now as opposed to like proposed regulation language, which still has to be developed. And when we do those workshops, it will happen just like it does with all of our regulatory packages where, yeah, there'll be notice through our website and email notification to our email list and posting of the language and any, presentation material. These are just questions I'm trying to get my mind around as I'm thinking about how to draft the regulations.
It will give some consideration to Gary and Matt. I'm just speaking out loud. As this was obviously posted as part of Matt's presentation today, it went out to all of our interested parties, including our Barr Advisory Group members and alternate members. So the public has, in theory, seen it, but it is buried on slide 10 of this presentation. So we'll look at potentially reposting these questions in an email that will go out to all of the interested parties, which again includes all the Bar Advisory Group members. And we'll add the fifth question that you verbalized in your presentation today. I think that might help people, and then we can put a date, February 15th, that we'd like to hear these comments back from, to these questions back by.
That's
Yeah,
great.
we have a fairly active membership, as I'm sure all organizations that participate in BAG do. So we would like to submit questions you have in developing the regulations to our membership, asking that they respond to you.
Sure.
So I want to do that in the most professional manner, and I'll wait and take your lead on that, Matt. How you suggest we get the industry more involved in developing of answers to questions to help you develop the regulation scheme.
Okay. And I
Sounds fair.
I hadn't thought of Pat's idea. I think that might be just the way to go. We'll just put this into an email and send it out to our email group.
Perfect.
And then was there anything else, Gary? I'm sorry.
No, that was it. Thank you.
Cut you off. Okay, and then I was wanting to mention that we, as it relates to the fix-it tickets and how that will potentially fold into this program, we did send an ET blast out to our smog check industry, our smog check stations, who are also licensed lamp and brake stations, to get their thoughts on that. That went out earlier this week, if I'm not mistaken. Matt?
Yesterday. Yeah, it went out yesterday.
Okay, yesterday. I lose track of time very easily. The weeks just fly by for me. It seemed like days ago. It was just yesterday. And then I think an underappreciated, but a very significant question here is the last question that's presented. This is going to be tricky for us. And, how do you treat existing brake and lamp stations, existing adjusters? There are features of the inspection that might require additional training. Do we just, as we say, grandparent or grandfather these licensees into the new program? Do they have to somehow get additional training by a certain date or time frame? That's going to be tricky for us in terms of how to draft that. Your thoughts on that? Well, again, not today, and not to belabor it, any of the responses to these questions just now, but that is a really significant one for us. I mean, even more so maybe than the actual systems that we're going to require to be inspected. That has to be done all in regulations. So it's just going to be a challenge, and not just from a regulatory standpoint in crafting words that represent that process, but also just administering that process. Because Barr will have to phase out the existing brake and lamp licenses and transition to this new license. And will there be some overlap where both licenses, both lamp and brake, still exist, and then sunset after, or then sunset after they expire, and then you are just working off of the vehicle safety license, safety inspection license? And again, what kind of training to get that license or keep that license, and whether or not those people should do that on day one that are licensed currently as lamp and brake, or at some point in the future upon renewal. Again, do they get grandfathered or grandparented, as we say, into the program, the new program? Very tricky. Not sure how to address that, but I want to put some focus on that question in particular. All right, let's go forward with some additional questions or comments from our advisory group members. Again, just going down the list in order. Johan Gallo with the California Automotive Business Coalition, CalABC.
Thanks for the presentation, Matt. Yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces in all of this, and to tie into Pat, your comments on fix-it tickets. One thing that came to mind is, and for some of us, we'll remember the old 60s and early 70s CHP roadside inspections that they were doing. So it was anything having to do with brake and lamp to wiper blades, you name it. You add all the systems on today's cars, what are you really going to get as far as the inspections? But I think it might be worth reaching out. It might be worth reaching out to the law enforcement community to figure out what exactly they're finding on some of these fix-it tickets and some of the issues that they're seeing that are prevalent to impeding motor vehicle safety on the roads. And it might be worth to look at what they are experiencing and then incorporate that in what would be included in the inspection program.
It's a good thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. All right, our next question or comment comes from Nikki Ayers with the Independent Automotive Professionals Association, IAPA. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, Matt. Hi, Pat. I went to fill out the survey yesterday, and the first time I did it, it bounced. And one thing that I wanted to just comment on is that I think if you want good responses, you need to make the survey so it's just a click to it.
So it turns out that you can't, you're right, because it has the address of the Survey Monkey in there. We actually wrote it in such a way that it wasn't this long string of alpha, numerical digits. But through your OIS, you can't hit a hyperlink to a white website. It has to be manually inputted, and we don't have a way actually to fix that at the moment.
Okay.
But I appreciate it. I understand what you're saying.
But maybe then highlight it or something in your email blast so that you see it the first time. It was hard to see, so for me anyway, I'm blind, I guess, but just a comment.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know about those abilities with ET Blast, if that's possible. We'll pass the information on to our tech team. Thank you, Nikki. Any other questions, comments, thoughts from our advisory group members? Okay, let's open it up for public comments, questions, concerns.
Okay, so this is the moderator, and we've opened up the Q&A feature of WebEx. You can locate that in the lower right corner of your computer screen or behind the three dots, and you can type the word comment into the text box and hit send, and we will take comments in the order received. And we are going to recognize Jean Lopez. Jean, I'm going to send you a request to unmute your microphone so that you can make your comment.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Matt, great presentation.
Thank you.
On your questions, what about recall notices? As Jack said, these might be retitled vehicles, salvaged vehicles, and the consumer may not know that there were some recalls on that vehicle, and so perhaps the inspection station could, run that option.
That's an excellent comment. Good idea. As a matter of fact,
we talked about that yesterday, did we not?
We just talked about something like that because we're actually right now, just so you know, and I know maybe you do know this, Gene, that we actually get that information from Carfax on all smog inspections right now. So that's something that we would have already kind of had a little bit of a discussion about.
Yeah, good, good. And as a resource for these inspection stations, there's a website called OEM One Stop, and the inspector could go into that. I'm sure they have dozens of resources here, but you could go into OEM One Stop, and as it relates to ADAS equipment, there would be a list of what the vehicle needs to go under to assure that it is the calibration is compliant. What kind of a hit was it? Was it a cosmetic damage? Was it a structural damage? Was an alignment required, and therefore it needs to go through either a dynamic or a static calibration. So that could be a resource. And then Siders Collision Center has participated in delivering vehicles to needy recipients, families, veterans who need a car. And oftentimes when we take the vehicle, we rebuild it, and we get it inspected, sometimes we have to go to the CHP, and sometimes we don't. I think it kind of depends on if the vehicle is on a most stolen hot list. And I'm wondering if that would be a resource to these inspectors to say, hey, you should check out the VIN numbers on the replaced parts to make sure that this isn't a stolen vehicle, and have the consumer, have the invoices that show that, yep, I bought this part and it does belong to this vehicle.
Okay. I was trying to. Okay. Thank you, Gene.
I just don't know. I don't know. So we go to the DMV and we transfer the title. And sometimes the DMV will say, you've got to go to the CHP and get this vehicle inspected, or you don't. And I don't know. I don't know, other than most stolen vehicle list, why we would have to go and get a CHP inspection or not. But that might be something that you want to look into as well, as just to protect the consumer.
Thank you. And I will say that, I mean, nothing about as we're transitioning from the brake and lamp to vehicle safety, those requirements are still going to exist with DMV, and they'll be sending them when they're sending them, independent of our program. So.
Oh, got it. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And then John Gustafson, I'm going to go ahead and send you a request to unmute your microphone so that you can give your input. And John, you should be able to click unmute me. Okay, John says he has no microphone today, but he did mention that he took the one question survey and it worked fine.
Oh, good. Thank you.
So,
Yeah, it's only one question. So.
All right, and I do not see any other public comments. I can close up that Q&A feature.
That'd be great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then we'll circle back to the Barr Advisory Group one last time. Any other additional comments at this time before we proceed with the agenda? I do not see any other comments. Thank you very much, Matt, for that presentation. I look forward to obviously what will be probably a regular feature of the Barr Advisory Group, as well as more regular workshops dedicated to the implementation of AB 471.
Thank you, Pat.
And look forward to your presentation at the workshop this afternoon.
Well, me too.
Thank you. All right, our next presenter is Paul Hedgeland with the Barr Engineering and Research Branch. Paul is going to give us an update or presentation on the California Vehicle Inspection System, otherwise known as CalVIS, and accomplishments and forecast. Wow, sounds pretty exciting. Thanks, Paul, for being here today.
Good morning, everyone. Apologize, my camera is not working very well today, for whatever reason. So yeah, forecast. And we're not talking about the weather, we're talking about the California Vehicle Inspection System. So with that, let me find the next slide button. There we go. All right, so we'll start off with accomplishments for the California Vehicle Inspection System. We've got a few slides on that, and then we'll talk about updates to the inspection equipment. So with the system in general, we've maintained 100% availability of CalVIS services during the reporting period, July through December 21. Completed 2 quarterly CalVIS enhancement and defect releases, including 39 enhancements and 43 defect fixes. We've completed an inspection fee invoice redesign, resulting in improved readability for payment. And that was based on input from the industry requesting some improvements on that. Also automated the monthly ledger file as input to the monthly billing reconciliation process. And we've completed the Service Year 2 Annual Customer Satisfaction Assessment Survey and report, and that feeds into continuous improvement planning and execution. And continuing, we've also supported third-party security assessment of the CalVIS system and processes, and incorporated new tooling into the CalVIS monitoring suite to support application performance monitoring, log aggregation, and these enhance the maintenance and operations team visibility of system health while making troubleshooting activities easier and more efficient. Also completed upgrades and validation for prototype and non-production database upgrades. We began updates for production CalVIS databases to Oracle 19c. And I want to commend our contractor Encore. That's been a large and huge effort, and it's gone very well. There's been no interruption to services as a result of that effort. And lastly, completed DAD 2.0 technical documentation, including external DAD vendor review and feedback. And going forward, we plan to complete 2 additional quarterly CalVIS enhancement and defect releases for Q1 and Q2 of 2022. And we'll wrap up the production upgrade of the Oracle Database Management System to the latest supported version. So that's it from the CalVIS database system perspective. And then next I'll provide updates on the Barr OIS OBD inspection system changes. So we implemented a modified software check in July 2021. And you recall that this will fail vehicles with aftermarket software that is not CARB executive order approved. We also rolled out release 21.2 in August. And this added a secondary authentication at the conclusion of the inspection. So the inspector has to enter his password access code a second time, besides just the beginning of the test. It also allows newer technology Internet Protocol version 6 gateway addresses, since the older IPv4 addresses are running out of length. So this is a modernization change. So we can remain compatible with routers and internet connectivity in the stations. We also updated an on-screen message instructing users to contact their Barr field office instead of contacting the Barr Industry Help Desk when an inspector is restricted for performing inspections. Just want them calling the right people. Also in the 21.2 release, purchasing certificates is blocked if the station license is canceled, expired, suspended, revoked, or if the station is locked out for not paying for certificates or communication fees. So before the change, if one of these actions was imposed on a station, they could still keep buying certificates. And that made refunds and things more difficult. Also, release 21.3 went in October, and that updated our online help to sync up with the screens for the dynamic data collection mode within the OBD test. So the help now matches the software. We also updated CARB's address, printed on a notice of non-compliance, since CARB moved to a new Riverside location. Future BarOS changes. So 21.4 release will go out sometime in February. And this will include major maintenance efforts around the Oracle database upgrade. And then the next release, 22.1 in March, that will be a BarOS software update that includes updating the software to a .NET 6 platform. It's basically the latest software development platform. And that requires close coordination with all the DAD vendors. They have to give us software from their end to coordinate with this effort. So we're working with the vendors very carefully to roll this out in a careful manner so we can do just batches of stations every day. So we have a smooth implementation of that effort in March. And also this one was requested by a BAG member, a notification of smog check certificate reordering for the BarOS user with station owner, station manager role. So in that 22.1 release, there'll be a new switch in the software where you can turn on this warning, and when the BarOS gets the 5 certificates remaining, it will advise you that it's going to reorder certificates. And that's an optional feature. Okay, and then release 20.2 in June. That will be an update to make the software compatible with Windows 11. There'll also be another update to online help. So the screen messaging matches the help message about contacting your local field office for assistance. And then the last bullet here is a change to allow viewing of all the inspectors in the station. And it primarily helps our referees since they have many inspectors tied to a station. Currently, they can only see up to 10, but they have more than 10 inspectors. So this will allow them to see their staff and manage their borrow access roles more easily. Okay, and then switching gears to biometric and remote access update. So Holly covered all the regulation status of this. As you remember, the package is currently with Office of Administrative Law for their review. And as far as implementation of this project, we're hoping to hear back from OAL within a few weeks, and that'll allow us to determine the implementation date. We were planning around October this year, but if we're successful with those regulations, we may be able to move that up to July this year. We're doing a lot of planning in that area. Things like when the BarOS software will be updated, when inspectors will have to come visit the Barr field offices to enroll for biometric use, when the equipment can be purchased, all those sorts of things will tie to the effective date of those regulations. The remote access portion of that regulation package, we don't know the implementation for that just yet. We're still in the design phase for how that software would work. So once it's built, and then we can do the planning for implementation later. All right, and then an update on the DAD 2.0. So if you remember, DAD is a data acquisition device. It's the OBD portion of the Barr OIS inspection system that collects the OBD data from the vehicles. The 2.0, it's the next generation of DAD. We've been using the current one since the program rolled in 2015. This new DAD will have enhanced features. The first here is to collect a newer type of OBD data from 2023 and newer vehicles. So we need this change to retrieve the Unified Diagnostic Services data. It'll also include enhanced data collection for improved fraud detection, and it will allow us to identify the DAD location. Supporting work going on. Our contractors built a vendor integration test environment. So that's an environment where the DAD vendors can connect in their prototype DADs as they're being built and make sure they work with the Barr OS software, as well as allow us to start preparing for Barr certification testing of the new DADs. The regulations are undergoing informal review. We're responding to some comments from our legal department currently. So continuing to work there. The DAD 2.0 will obviously replace the current DAD model once we have adopted regulations and a certified equipment. Could be as early as 2023, but the dates are subject to change based on regulation schedule. And then I'll wrap up some Barr 97 changes here. So Barr 97 removed the ability to disable the low pressure fuel evaporative test. We changed CARB's address on the notice of non-compliance and updated the vehicle lookup table to allow inspecting model year vehicles up through 2050. As you recall, the Barr 97 test is still required on heavy duty vehicles over 14,000 gross vehicle weight. And then moving forward on Barr 97, we're looking at enhancements in the area of improved fraud detection capability. We're testing software to operate on next generation computers, like newer Windows version, for example. We'll eliminate the need for exterior disk drives, testing new printer drivers, and completing the installation of the vehicle lookup table, allowing testing new model years in all analyzers. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, Paul. Good presentation. I appreciate that. And let's see if there's any questions or comments from the Barr Advisory Group. Okay, seeing none, we'll move next to opening it up for public comment.
And I've opened up the Q&A feature of WebEx for public comment. If you'd like to make a comment, just look for the question mark inside a box icon, click that and type the word comment and send. And we will take people in the order received. If you are on the app, on a mobile device, it's behind the 3-dot other options. If you are calling in, you can hit *3 to raise your hand. And I do not see any requests for public comment. Shall I close up that feature?
Yes, let's close that feature. All right, I'm circling back to look at our Barr Advisory Group to see if there's any one who has rethought and wants to say anything about that presentation. Nope, doesn't seem like we have any hands raised to comment on it. Paul, thank you very much. We'll look forward to seeing you.
I'm sorry, I thought I did raise my hand. I
I
apologize.
didn't see it, Nikki, and I apologize. Maybe it's just a
I don't
oversight
know.
on my part, or there's a technical difficulty potentially. But go ahead.
So I do have a question about smog text registering for the biometrics while we're planning. You said something about, Paul, you said something about the smog technicians will have to come into the bar office to register for the program. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So how is the bar going to handle that? Because a lot of the techs are going to have to take a day off from work to do that. Are you going to figure out longer hours or Saturdays or something like that so that they don't have to do that?
Yeah, those are certainly options. We're also looking at calendaring appointments to improve that convenience. And then that whole period will stretch out over several weeks to allow time.
Okay. Because that's in some cases, like from Santa Barbara, it's, an hour and a half to 2 hours just to get to the office, just driving. So,
That's a really good point, Nikki. We'll look to make it as convenient as possible. Obviously, there is that registration process that has to be done. It's unavoidable. We'll have to look at ways to make it as flexible and easy for the licensees as possible. Anyway, thank you for that comment. We'll look at, as Paul said, in addition to appointments, perhaps maybe additional longer hours beyond the normal business hours to see about that kind of added flexibility.
thank you. I just thought it should be planned.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Anything else?
Nope.
Anyone else?
All
right,
Pat,
thank you, Paul. Oh, did I hear
I
someone's voice?
apologize. Sorry, this is Clay Leak with the Barr Executive Office. I just wanted to jump in real quick and, recognize the work that Paul and his team have done. The availability of the system is a real accomplishment. Keeping the system available 100% of the time for that duration of time is a real accomplishment. So I definitely want to recognize Paul and his team, and also the Encore Consulting team, who the services supporting the VID. Kind of transitioned to that Encore team several years ago. They've done a fantastic job and have really proven to be great partners. Really proud of what we've been able to accomplish in terms of availability and also the rate of change and the amount of new features and issues that have been resolved. So thank you, Paul, and thank you to the Encore team that have been, like I say, great partners.
Thank you, Clay, for those comments, and I echo those same thoughts. I mean, it's just an undervalued and underappreciated work here at the Bureau. I mean, everybody just expects that system to work, and it does. And it's an amazing system that requires a really collaborative and successful partnership between Encore and the Bureau, and in particular, our Technology Services branch and our Barr Engineering and Research branch. And, I know that your work is appreciated. We want to make sure that all of you know that. It doesn't get said often enough, but everybody just expects things to work so smoothly, and it does. And we have glitches from time to time. That's expected with a system that relies on the internet. But by and large, it's got to be one of the most, if not the most successful electronic networking communication systems in the world for emissions inspection programs, and hopefully we'll be able to replicate those successes in our forthcoming vehicle safety inspection program.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Clay. I appreciate that additional commentary, because again, we just take for granted. I do, and I apologize for doing so. There's the work that goes on. It's working smoothly, and you just go about your business. But it's one of those things. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of work behind the scenes that gets done each and every day to make this program and this system work so smoothly. All right, let's move forward with our next presentation. I want to make sure don't butcher one of the names here. Well, first of all, Clay Leak with our Barr Executive Office, who you just saw and heard from, and then Chris, is it Milohan?
It's Milhone.
Milhone.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if we spelled it correctly on the agenda. Let me make sure.
Oh, a couple letters are transposed.
Oh yeah, we did have a little yeah, it's Milhoan. I think on the agenda we had the O and the H backwards. So my apologies to you for that. Much like my own last name, I get that you probably have experienced some of that in your years. But you are with the DMV registration operations, and we welcome you and also again Clay for this joint presentation on the DMV electronic registration renewal program that has just rolled out this week. We came to find out, and I'm looking forward to logging in and opting in, as they say. I think that's the term that you're using.
Yep.
So take it away. I don't know who's planning to go first and how you're, what's the order of the presentation, but I'll turn it over to the both of you.
All right. Well, I think the beginning of the presentation is really related to the DMV information. Clay, correct me if I'm wrong.
Absolutely.
I don't seem to have control of the slideshow though. So we're here today just to basically give some information in regards to the electronic registration renewal that, as you indicated, it was just rolled out for opting in or being able to register for this service. I'm sorry, I don't have the control for the slideshow. Do you have it, Clay?
We've
Chris,
given it to Clay.
Oh, okay. I'll go ahead and run it.
Thank you. So a little bit of background in regards to this process for the registration renewals. The DMV obviously works with the Bureau of Automotive Repair, and our primary role in regards to the smog check program in regards to the registration renewals kind of focuses on the notifications to the customers that they have a smog that is due and the type of smog requirements, such as if it's a star station or if they go to a regular smog location. And then we also, on the back end, once they get the passing smog renewal or the smog certification, then we receive electronic notification and we ensure that that has been completed prior to completing their registration renewal. So a little bit of additional background on the notices. We are required by the statute to send out the renewal notices. The customers must receive them at least 60 days prior to the due date of the registration expiration. So we generally generate the renewal notices about 90 days in advance of the registration expiration date. So as we all know, we're with COVID and everything else going on, where there's a lot of shift to do a lot more stuff on the online services and to make them more convenient and available for our customers. In fact, we just recently, well, in July of last year, we rolled out a very similar program for the driver's license renewals. That was back in July of 21, where customers are now able to also opt in through their DMV account to be able to register for their driver's license renewals as well. Can you jump to the next page, Clay?
Yes.
Thank you. Background on this, we issue approximately 38 million paper renewal notices that are sent out every year. We're looking at if we can get a 50% adoption rate for the electronic notices, so we wouldn't be generating these notices, mailing them out, sending out the return envelopes and everything else. We're estimating we're having about a $10 million annual savings potentially. So we're very excited about that. And, you know, with the paper shortage right now, that's also certainly a consideration. This will also make it a lot easier for customers since they will receive their notification via their email and they will be able to, there's links to the different registration options and information that's generally printed on our regular renewal notices. All right, so the law in regards to the, specifically in regards to the barcodes on there for the emissions testing, obviously it falls into the health and safety code that we must furnish a barcode label or a barcoded document to all vehicle owners at the time of their registration renewal, and that those barcodes will have the vehicle identification number and other verifying informations that can be scanned by the bar technician or by the smog technicians. So we began the digital notification opt-in last week, and then we are looking at, right now we're looking at a February 25th implementation date of actually starting to roll out the electronic notices. This would impact customers that are going to be eligible for renewal in May, since again they're generated in advance. There has been a press release, obviously on the opt-in, and then we are going to be doing some additional web page enhancements to make sure that we're advertising this and getting this information out to the public. So we have just a few samples here of some of our existing renewal notices. This one is a renewal notice indicating that a smog check is required. As you can see, we have, sorry, I'm sitting here pointing at my screen. As you can see here, it indicates right at the top that a smog certification is required, as well as in the bubble down on the second bubble there on the other requirements. It's a very similar notice, though it has a few more items on it. This one is referring a customer to a star station. So as you can see, it's got the same indicator there at the top, indicating that they would need to get it certified at a star location, and it's asking them to please bring the form in with them so that it can be scanned. It's another example of a paper renewal notice with a gross polluter for a gross polluter on there. So again, we have that notification right at the top. We can go ahead and go to the next one. This is the digital renewal notice that we'll be sending out. So it's going to be sent out via email to the customer's email address that they provided when they set up their account. It will have, on this email, it will have just some basic general registration information, letting the customers know that their registration is expiring soon, and then the fees and requirements, or the fees and the general information about the vehicle, as well as we've set up links in this email to connect the customers to the other required information that's on the regular renewal notice. So this is just a continuation, again, where we're showing the links to our webpage. We've set up some dedicated web pages in order to make sure that we can include all of the statutory required information on those forms that the customer will be able to access easily by just clicking on the link. Now here's the one that I'm sure that y'all are most interested in. This is the actual attachment that comes with the electronic notice. As you can see, it has the same information as the physical notices that we send out. However, the information at the bottom has been removed because these are not going to be submitted to the department via mail. These are going to be submitted electronically, either through the online renewal process or through our virtual field office, which is one of our newer products that we put into place to allow customers to scan and submit information to the department in order to complete specific transactions.
Okay, I think that completes the DMV part of the presentation. Thank you, Chris, very much for jumping in and helping us out with this and kind of giving an overview of what's to come from the DMV side. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So obviously, this change impacts some business processes for our smog stations out in the field, out in the wild. Obviously, the objective of the barcode is to expedite testing, eliminate data entry errors, make sure that the correct vehicle is getting smogged and the correct record is getting updated on the DMV and Barr side. So one of the things I thought was worthwhile is kind of looking at the different ways that VIN and license plate are entered into the Barr OIS. And subsequently kind of look at the different percentages so we can kind of gauge the impact to smog stations out there and the various business processes to get this data into the system. So first, within the VIN, a lot of stations, technicians just go ahead and scan off the DMV registration renewal document. We also see a pretty high percentage scan from the vehicle. There are some advantages, obviously, to scanning from the vehicle because the DMV document could potentially not match the vehicle being smogged. I have seen scenarios where people grab this, right? They have two vehicles they grab the wrong renewal document. And then finally, we do see some manual entry as well, which can be problematic, obviously, with a long number like a VIN that could be easily fat-fingered or misentered. So with regard to license plate, we also see a pretty high percentage scanned off the DMV document, and we also see a fairly high percentage manually entered as well. So getting into the specifics of kind of percentage-wise what we see with each alternative, about 55% of the time we see inspectors scanning from the DMV registration document, about 41% of the time scanning from the vehicle, about 4% manual entry. With regard to license plate entry, we see about 55% scanning from the DMV registration renewal and about 45% manually entering that data. So in terms of next steps, obviously, I'm sure every smog station is going to look at their business processes and kind of do an analysis in terms of what the best way to accommodate their customers are. One option would be to print that email that is received from DMV and scan off the registration document. The downside of that is obviously, the use of the paper and the use of the ink. And in a perfect world, I think, stations will figure out a way to kind of move through this process 100% digitally, but maybe that's not the right answer for everyone, and that's okay. So we have kind of looked at some draft documentation from DMV, the digital renewal notices, the barcodes seem to match with what's being provided, so we don't see any changes needed to the system there. But certainly if there are potential changes to the Barr OIS or the Barr 97 that industry is interested in to support this change and help streamline some of those business processes, we're open to that. We will work with you to prototype and test those new business processes. And as always, gather the supporting data and any supporting metrics and work to continuously improve the software and the user experience that all of technicians performing inspections every day out in the field use. So that said, I think that takes us to questions and comments, and certainly feel free to reach out if anybody, like I mentioned, has any suggestions on improvements to the software as you start to work through this new process and digital renewals from DMV.
Thank you, Clay and Chris, for that interesting presentation. Very exciting. I like to see it. Some online features that will make our lives a little easier, and maybe even DMVs. Let's open it up for questions and comments. I see Dave Kusa's hand raised first. Dave Kusa with the Automotive Service Councils of California.
Thank you, Pat. Thanks, guys. Great presentation. As far as scanning the barcode at the smog check station, have we tested it all, like scanning it from a phone, displaying the barcode on someone's phone, or if they would forward the email to the smog station, scanning it right from the computer screen, would that be functional?
Yeah, we have started testing that a little bit, and to be totally honest, we haven't had great results, but I think it's going to vary. Your results are going to vary significantly depending on what type of screen, what type of monitor, what type of scanner, if you're trying to do it from a phone versus a monitor. So we've kind of just started to test the water with that, Dave, so I don't have a solid answer for you, but I think the results are going to vary greatly depending on the equipment you have out in the field.
And so one thought might be, and like when you go to the airport, right? You can put the QR code on your phone; it'll scan the QR code. I know there'd probably be another piece of equipment the smog check would have to have, but I don't know if the barcode scanner will scan a QR code, but maybe if the QR code were as well as the barcode on the registration form.
Yeah, most of the scanners we have are 2D scanners, and I know some shops use three-dimensional scanners, so we haven't we haven't had great results with 2D scanners on phones, on cell phones, I can tell you that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Well, Clay, just as a side note, we are working on getting you guys some more samples. So I've also requested that they generate some emails for us so that you guys can work with scanning some more documents. So we anticipate those coming out in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, that'd be great.
Additional comments from the Bar Advisory Group? Not seeing any other hands raised. Thank you, Dave, for that question that you raised there. Let's moderator, if we could open it up for public comment, that would be nice.
You bet. So we've opened up the Q&A feature of WebEx for public comment. If you'd like to ask a question or make a comment, you can look for the question mark inside a box icon in the lower right of your computer screen, or behind the three-dot other options if you're on the WebEx app on a mobile device, or if you're calling a number on your phone, you can hit *3 to raise your hand. And write comment in the text box and hit send. And I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I go ahead and close that up?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions, comments from the Bar Advisory Group? All right, seeing none, we'll close out this agenda item and move to our next one. Thank you very much, Clay and Chris.
Thank you.
Look forward to hearing how some data and some results on this program. Okay. All right, so we actually have a presentation for a feature that has been for the last couple of years just a handout. Our bar enforcement statistics started with presentations very early on, some years back, and then it became such a kind of a regular feature that not a lot of changes, that we just moved into having it be a handout only. And but recently there were some changes or developments with respect to enforcement statistics reporting at the department level that involves or affects the Bureau of Automotive Repair, and we thought it would be a good idea to give you an update on that. So here to give a presentation about changes to that handout, that'll be the next agenda item, is Bill Thomas with the Bar Enforcement Operations Branch. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you, Pat. And true, there have been some updates to the enforcement statistics reporting at the DCA website, specifically the enforcement performance measures. So that's one of the reasons I'm here today. And plus, I just missed presenting to all of you. So thought I would make an excuse to come back and give a presentation. As you're all aware, for many years we've provided a handout, the enforcement statistics reporting. I don't know that was the name, but we will go with that. That was first presented to the Bar Advisory Group in April of 2015. At first, it was a recurring presentation where you'd get to see my smiling face every advisory group, and then it became a quarterly handout. Since that time, the department has added the enforcement performance measures page on its website with data going back to the 2016-17 fiscal year, and Barr will now be adding that data to the quarterly advisory group handout. The enforcement statistics themselves, the existing handout prior to adding this new information, focuses on consumer complaints and complaint trends. And as I've mentioned frequently, the trend is the area of automotive repair the consumer was seeking in the transaction that resulted in the complaint to the Bureau. We have trend groupings. There's other, which are just issues where the consumer didn't provide us enough information to where we could categorize it accurately as to what type of automotive repair it was. We also include the allegations, and again, those are the consumer's allegations of how they were wronged during the automotive repair transaction. The existing reporting also includes data on auto body inspections and a licensing population by primary business type. So the DCA has developed an open data portal which contains search engines to browse licensing and enforcement data. Tried to share my screen before. This link is active. If you are on the advisory group page of the Bureau's website, you can click this link and it'll take you to the portal. I'm going to attempt to share here. I've closed down all my emails and other sensitive stuff, so I'm going to see if we accomplish this one. And there's the PowerPoint. So we'll click on this and go right to, and it says I'm sharing this screen.
Great.
And that it is the correct screen.
Yep.
Because I've done this before and ended up with a blank screen. So, so this is the DCA Open Data Portal. It's, if you go to the department's webpage, it's one of the headers right at the top, data, and it has this information here. Several pieces of information and queries that can be searched, exam statistics and interactive maps showing applications by geographic area and so forth. And then this is enforcement statistics. This is our area. And we click on view data, and there's performance measures, annual statistics, and then some division of investigation. For us here, we have the performance measures. We'll talk about performance measure 1. This is the only example I'm going to show because we could spend a day here. So if we look at complaint intake volume, we're looking at the Board of Behavioral Sciences. We click the drop down, go to Bureau of Automotive Repair, and this is our complaint intake volume for the first quarter of fiscal year ending in June 30th of 2022. And these are the number of complaints. It says here case volume, and it's important to note that this is both consumer complaints and any investigation opened by the Bureau. The way the Bureau's database works, an investigation such as a formal investigation against an ARD or a citation case is counted in as a complaint number. It's all one set of numbers. So that's the open data portal. I will mention that DCA has also propped up. Let me go back to, the home page. Application statistics, which is pursuant to SB 878, and it views our licensing performance measures. Those aren't my area of purview, but we do want to let everybody know that pursuant to that legislation, this information is now available on DCA's website, and it does much the same. Click on license applications, and it talks about, and this just has a table for all the entities within DCA, and you can scroll through this information. Now let's see how I stop sharing. I think if I hit the little red button right there, it says stop sharing. Look at that. That's a success. So again, as the slideshow says, the DCA portal contains application, licensing, enforcement statistics. Most of the data available on the DCA website are annually through the completion of the most recent fiscal year. As it showed, the application statistics is now quarterly, and so are the enforcement statistics. Go to the next slide. It also has lists of licensees. It's active and delinquent licenses only. It doesn't show revoked, canceled, or licenses of other statuses. There's probably 10 to 15 different status codes for license status, and we won't go into that. It has a license search. That's also available on Barr's website, and Barr also has the added feature of the Auto Shop Locator, which is an app that utilizes the license search function to locate repair facilities in geographic areas. All the data sets are available. Those can be downloaded actually as spreadsheets or CSV data sets, and for research purposes, it's all public information. So many years ago, the department created the Consumer Protection Enforcement Initiative, which was to address some concerns within the healing arts boards for enforcement processing times. That data is still on the DCA website under enforcement. And then you can go to the link. Again, this link is active as well on the Bureau's website, and you can get there. I won't go there. That data is from July of 2010 to December of 2017 and was archived in 2018 and replaced by the enforcement performance measures beginning in 2018. It contains 6 data points, and there's the link that I just went to. The first one is PM1, Performance Measure 1, which is the total number of complaints received. That's the example I showed. And again, that includes investigations. In fiscal year ending 21, the Bureau reported 15,041 complaints. This year, we're projecting 17,000, so it's nice to see a decent increase. I think that's good for all of us. If we're getting more complaints, hopefully there's more transactions, and everybody on this meeting would appreciate that. Now it's when I have there we go. Okay, there's performance measure 2, which is the average number of days from receipt of the complaint to assignment to an investigator in the field. The goal established through the performance measures is 10 days. Our current average is 2 days, where we want to get those in the hands of program representatives out in the field to start assisting the consumers as quickly as possible. All complaints come through, well, nearly all, high 90% of them come through my branch, the Enforcement Operations Branch Complaint Intake Unit, and are immediately routed to the field to get assigned to an investigator. PM3, Performance Measure 3, is the average number of days to investigate and close a complaint. The performance measure goal is 60 days. The current average for the Bureau is 43 days, and historically we have achieved 45 days or less. Then there's performance measure 4, and this is the big one. This is the average number of days from the opening of a formal investigation. So that's an investigation that's completed for the purposes of forwarding to the Office of the Attorney General for the pursuit of administrative discipline. From the date of the opening of the investigation to the decision effective date. The goal is 540 days, a year and a half, if you will. Our current average, and this happened in the first quarter of this fiscal year, was 520 days. That is the first time in my tenure within the Enforcement Operations Branch that we have meet the 540-day goal. And quite honestly, we were quite excited about that. I will say that goal, a lot of the difficulty in achieving that goal is because we are dependent upon outside entities. The Office of the Attorney General and their caseload, the Office of Administrative Hearings and their hearing load and availability of judges and hearing rooms, historically hearing rooms. And then the Department of Consumer Affairs Legal Affairs Division also has a role in that timeline. We were able to meet this goal in the first quarter of this year through partnering with all of those entities and working to save time and find efficiencies wherever possible. And I was in a meeting with the Attorney General's office yesterday and congratulated and thanked them for their efforts at helping the Bureau to achieve that goal. And in the second quarter of this fiscal year, we, again, I believe, met the goal. I didn't glance at the numbers, the final reported numbers first thing this morning, and I admit to. I know we were very close. So year to date, we're projecting to achieve that goal on an annual basis, but one bad case could hurt us. To my knowledge, I don't think there's anything on the horizon that's going to affect that, though, negatively. Performance measure 7, and yes, 5 and 6 don't exist for the Bureau. I don't know what boards and bureaus they do exist for, but they're performance measure 5 and 6 are not applicable to Barr. Performance measure 7 is the average number of days from a probation monitor assignment to first contact with a probationer. So when a decision becomes final, a Barr field office program representative is assigned to monitor probation when the decision is served upon the respondent and all parties. And so that's the date of monitor assignment. And first contact is simply a phone call advising the respondent that you have received an order that's subject to probation. You'll be getting a written copy of that order in the next few days. And we want to set up a meeting for your first probation conference. That's the first contact. Our current average is 13 days. We're working very hard to get that down below the 10-day average. Historically, we've been in the 15 to 20-day range. So we're getting improvement there, and that's the goal, to always have constant improvement. The final performance measure is PM8, and this over the years has been a very difficult one to define because, well, the measure is defined as the average number of days from a confirmed probation violation to taking the appropriate action. And where we're at currently for identifying a confirmed violation is when Barr headquarters receives a case for submittal to the Attorney General's office. The current average for performance measure 8 is 35 days. Historically, we've exceeded this goal due to the complexity of cases and the time required to review, edit, and approve and forward a case to the AG, the Attorney General's office. So in a nutshell, when an investigative report comes, and I believe I've covered this in prior presentations discussing Barr's enforcement and disciplinary process, a case comes to my unit, the Investigation Quality Assurance Unit, for review from the field office. And that team is tasked with going through the report and making sure, well, the stats and facts are correct. You know, we have correct license plate numbers, dates, times, match all the exhibits contained within the report. And there actually is a violation of the Automotive Repair Act that warrants a request for disciplinary action from the AG's office. There are times when we'll go through the report and we'll send it back and say, have an office conference. This doesn't necessarily warrant formal disciplinary action. That review process, we don't shortcut it. The Attorney General's office it is deserving of a quality product. The Bureau prides itself on preparing a very quality investigation, and we represent, the executive office, the department, and the Bureau as a whole with those cases, so they have to be of high quality. So and we're frequently commended by the AG for the quality of our reports, but there's no way to shortcut that process just to meet the goal. We're not going to do that. We're going to focus on other ways to achieve efficiencies, but still maintain the quality of the product. And that's it. The handout does contain those measures now. It was posted on the website. Everybody has access to it. And we've put those in ahead of the complaint trends because those are our performance measures that are looked at by the public.
Thank you, Bill, for that excellent presentation. I'm glad we were able to share that with everyone today. And thank you also for going over the licensing statistics, which were also important and can be very valuable to people out there. Let's see if we have any questions, comments on this presentation from the Barr Advisory Group.
Looks like we have a hand raised from Johan Gallo.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it, but yes. Oh, okay, I do. I saw it just now. Yeah, let's go ahead. John, with the California Automotive Business Coalition. John Gallo.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Pat. And good presentation, Bill. I really have to applaud the efforts of the Bureau working with the Attorney General. I know it was a major issue with Assemblymember Lowe. We had worked with him extensively on bills and he was constantly referring back to the length of time it took cases to get processed through the process. So it's good to see that the timeline is moving up. Also appreciate all the work that's been done on the website with all the additional information that's now available to us. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, John. Any other comments from the Bar Advisory Group? Okay, seeing none, let's go to opening it up for public comment.
And I've opened up the Q&A feature of WebEx for public comments. And if you would like to make a comment or ask a question, you can look for the question mark icon inside a box. Typically, it's in the lower right corner of your computer screen or behind the 3-dot other options if you're on a mobile device. And if you are attending through a call-in, you can hit *3 to raise your hand. If you do use the Q&A option, we'd ask that you write the word comment in the text box and hit send. We're displaying instructions on the screen. And I do not see any requests for comment at this time. Shall I go ahead and close the Q&A?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments circling back to the Bar Advisory Group one last time? Seeing none, we'll move forward with the handout. Thank you, Bill, for the excellent presentation today on that.
Thank you, Pat.
All right, our next agenda item is the handout that Bill referenced in his presentation. Any comments with respect to that handout from the Bar Advisory Group? Seeing none, we'll open it up for public comment.
If anyone has a question or comment on the handout described, you can open up the Q&A icon, type comment in the text box and hit send. It is behind the 3-dot other options if you're on a mobile device. And in the meantime, it does look like we have a raised hand from John Gallo.
Okay.
Actually, I'm jumping the gun on the agenda item. I was going to public comment.
We'll get there.
Okay, I'll wait.
It'll take a couple minutes to get through the portions I need to get through of the agenda, but we'll get there. Thank you.
And I did not see.
Yeah, we can close this one out for public comment, and we'll close the agenda item.
Super.
Our next agenda item, similar to the handout for the enforcement statistics, we have our quarterly licensing data or statistics. Again, just a handout, but if there are any comments regarding that handout from the Bar Advisory Group, please raise your hand. There anyone? No, I didn't see anything out there. Let's open it up for public comment on this agenda item.
All right, we've opened up the Q&A feature of WebEx for public comment. If you'd like to make a comment or ask a question, you can click on that or you can raise your hand. I'm going to send Mike Flanagan a request. You can unmute your microphone. And go ahead, Mike.
Bill, in the old days, I mean, congratulations when we were sending our investigative reports to the AG. They basically were, it was just a bundle of leaves. So well done, congratulations. That's it.
Thank you, Mike. All right. Seeing no other commenters.
No other questions?
Do you have any more questions? Yeah, I don't see any other questions coming up on the public comment portion for this agenda item. We can close this out.
Thank you.
And we will close out that agenda item and move to, I think, what Mr. Gallo was waiting for is agenda item number 10, public comment for any item that was not on the agenda for today's meeting.
Thanks, Pat.
Mr. Gallo. Yes.
One of the things, as we're moving down the road for Cite and Fine and all the work that we're doing on it, especially now as it relates to AB 471 and all the other work that's going on, one of the things that I continuously get from our members is a concern over job descriptions, as an example, and failure to comply with total disclosure to the consumer, what's included in a job. And then recently, one that surfaced that I thought we had put to bed a long time ago was there was always this issue with whether or not when you're telling a consumer they have repairs that are necessary, we all agree that you can't tell the customer they need this repair, because if the car came in, it can leave. They don't need anything. That's their choice. But the word recommend has been tossed around again, and we have been told, or we had been told, that recommend is an acceptable word when you're recommending repairs to a consumer to restore the vehicle to working order. And that recently has come up with several members, and again, the concern is broader than that. It's because we deal with a lot of members who have national chains, national locations, and trying to get all of their job descriptions and everything to comply with California, for many, has been the standard. And whatever works in California works across the country. But the concern is we move to Cite and Fine, and I realize there's going to be some training components to that, where a person may get some training aspects and not a financial fine. But as we kind of move through this arena, I think it's important that we have a consistent message that goes from the top down to the field within Barr, and a consistent message from all the associations and all the members on the BAG meeting and throughout the industry. Because we see so often, and I know when I was dealing with the California new car dealers and the auto advisory services, and we'd go to these dealerships and we'd look at their software job descriptions. We'd say, you're not compliant with California. Well, we're not changing it for California. This is what we do for all dealers throughout the United States. And so it is a red flag for us and a concern for us as we kind of move through that, because I think everybody does want to comply, but I still think that we have some inconsistencies both within the Bureau and within our industry. And so I wanted to raise that today.
All right. Thank you, John, for those comments. Absolutely want to take a look at those issues, and as we proceed with the citation regulations and other forthcoming changes to the Automotive Repair Act through regulation as a result of AB 471 or some other regulation development. Any other comments from the Barr Advisory Group relating to any item outside of the agenda?
Patrick, this is Jeff Cox. I just want to echo what John was saying. And in our program, we actually even create marketing materials that say, never say need. Just as John said, nothing. Your vehicle doesn't need anything. And the language that we use and the 20,000 shops that are on our program is suggested and required. You know, some components, some parts are suggested to be replaced, and some of them are required to be replaced. And so that's the language that we use. We have most of the national brands on our program, so those are two words that would resonate well with a lot of shops within California and even across the country.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that added commentary. Anyone else from the Bar Advisory Group for items not on the agenda today? Moderator, please open it up for public comment on this specific agenda item.
And we've opened up the Q&A feature of WebEx so people can suggest topics for other future meetings. We did have a hand up, but it's down now. If someone did have, Jean Lopez, I'm going to go ahead and send you a request to unmute your microphone so you can make your suggestion.
Letting me, giving me an open mic. So you may all be aware, I'm certain you are, of the supply chain disruption. And as it relates to collision repair, that, you know, and so that we have parts availability issues, we have tech shortages, and there's delays in response from insurers. And some of these parts delays are, you know, on average 3.5 weeks. We had an early model Accord, I think it was a 2011 or 2012, waiting 6 months for an airbag module, not the airbag itself, but the airbag module. And so our customers asked if they could have their car back. It was drivable, but it wouldn't have had a driver's side airbag. And so, you know, that puts us in a pickle that we're rendering a vehicle unsafe, but I understand we're obligated to give that vehicle back to the consumer. Is that correct? Maybe Jack can respond to that, or
It would be helpful if someone else can step in and answer that question, whether it be someone on the advisory group or someone on the staff here.
you know, and I'm sure there's some type of waiver that we would ask the customer to sign, recognizing that they're taking their vehicle back that's unsafe. And it could be a side view mirror, it could be a tail light, it could be you know, any number of things that come out of these parts shortages. But you know, we certainly don't want to send a vehicle out without a airbag module or a headlamp or whatever it is that we're waiting on.
James, Bill Thomas here.
Oh, go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, the airbag, that's a tough one because there are statutes that specifically preclude ARDs from knowingly disabling an airbag system. So that one's tough. The others, I think it would just, you know, we recognize these supply chain issues, but our priority is the safety of the consumer. And so how that's managed, I think, is going to be looked at. If the Bureau gets involved, we're just going to look at it on a case-by-case basis. I don't think we can really set a policy or a statement that the Bureau is going to act a certain way in any of those circumstances.
If the customer is demanding their vehicle, do we have to release it?
You know, I've always been under the impression the answer to that is yes. It's their property.
Right.
I would concur that yes. I mean, somebody requests their property back from you, you have to return it. how that's accomplished and what sort of disclaimers are put on the documents, that again, that's where the case-by-case basis. And I'm sorry for giving a non-answer, but
No,
there's just a lot of factors.
yeah.
But yes.
It's just like if there was an unpaid repair bill, then if they demand it back, are they entitled to their car without paying? The answer would be no.
Right. Exactly. They do have to pay for what has been completed. Again, it's case by case. You would have to look at what wasn't done, what should not be paid for until such time as the work is completed, so forth. There's just so many questions that come up there.
And it does look like we have a hand up from Jack.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to Gino's question. That's a tough one because that's a liability issue, Gene. And so you hand that car over, you take on the liability. Obviously, if they get involved in an accident, I'm sure on the paperwork, you're going to have them sign some sort of waiver that, it's clear the car is dangerous. It's unsafe to drive. However, what'll happen, you mentioned a 6-month time frame. What if that owner then forgets and ends up selling the car to a third party? You can't protect yourself from that. So this is a tough situation, and there isn't a clear answer. All I can tell you is, if someone gets hurt or seriously hurt, they're going to come back after you. So you'll end up having the liability.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's hurting us in a lot of different ways. I mean, even if you look at the length of rental today, I think it's approaching 14 days. That's just unheard of, where, in 2019, it was something south of 10. So there's so many different factors that are taking place. Other KPIs are customer satisfaction, and even though there was a part, it may have been something as simple as a badge or an emblem, and we're getting dinged because it wasn't available when we delivered the car, and we certainly don't want to keep a car because it doesn't have an emblem. But we're getting dinged on customer satisfaction because they had to return the car, or they had to bring their car back for repairs, which everyone knew they were going to have to bring it back. But it's kind of sour grapes at that point. So anyway, thank you for your response, and we'll do our best to only render these vehicles when they are safe.
I don't know, Gene, thank you for the comments, and thank you for the Barr staff and Jack and anyone else who attempted to try and respond to it. Maybe there's an opportunity for a future discussion, maybe an agenda item for a future Barr advisory group meeting. I don't know. We'll reconvene after the meeting and see whether that makes any sense. If there's anything that could be developed to give some improved clarity on this subject.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the responses.
Any other comment?
No. I don't see any other requests for comment.
Okay. All right, let's close that agenda item out, and then before we adjourn, the second to last agenda item is our next Barr Advisory Group meeting, which is scheduled for Thursday, April 21, 2022. And it sounded like from the opening presentation from the department's executive office, Brianna Miller informed us that the governor's executive order, I believe, with respect to virtual meetings and such, as if I read it and understood it correctly, is only as good through the end of March. I believe March 31st. So unless it's renewed or extended, we may be back in person in April. But we'll stay tuned. We'll keep everyone posted on any developments regarding that next meeting, our second quarterly meeting of the calendar year 2022. Again, that meeting is scheduled tentatively right now for Thursday, April 21, 2022. Any agenda items any questions relating to that meeting? Does it conflict with anything going on that's of major concern with within the industry? Let us know. Can open up this agenda item for comment, but we also will take suggestions after the meeting on any potential agenda items. Any hands raised from the Bar Advisory Group? Moderator, if you would open it up for Q&A on this agenda item. We already heard from Jean Lopez on a potential agenda item for a future meeting, that next meeting, perhaps.
So we've opened up the Q&A feature of WebEx. If you have any comment on the date for the next meeting, you can look for the question mark icon, click that, and then hit comment, put comment into the text box and click send. Q&A is behind the three dot other options if you're using the WebEx app on your smartphone or mobile device, or you can hit *3 if you're calling in on phone. And I do not see any requests for comment about the date.
Okay, great. Thank you. We can close that one out.
Thank you.
All right, and just a few comments before we adjourn here. Thank you to our moderator, Ann Fisher, and our co-moderator, Zach Richardson, for excellent work in supporting our meeting today. Appreciate all of your efforts. And again, another kind of a lot of work that goes behind the scenes to get us ready for today's event. And it always goes, a few hiccups here and there, but quite smoothly, all things considering. And today has been no exception to that. Thank you also to all of our presenters today. Great job to all of you. And thank you for a wonderful turnout of our Bar Advisory Group and your continuing support of the Bureau and this advisory group role that you serve us on, and as well the feedback and comments and questions that we got for all of the presentations. Thank you to the advisory group for that. And then those who are there attending as members of the public, thank you as well for your attendance today. We are, just as a reminder, we're going to have an informational public workshop on a proposed regulation. It'll be actually our third public workshop to discuss proposed regulations to extend the Bureau's citation program to automotive repair dealer violations of the Automotive Repair Act. The first two workshops were held on April 22nd and July 15th of last year, 2021. And as provided by AB 471, Assembly Bill 471, which was introduced by Assembly Member Lowe, Chapter 372, Statutes of 2021, the draft regulations now include an informal appeal process through a three-member panel that is represented by someone from the Bureau of Automotive Repair, a consumer, and an industry representative to consider appeals on such citations. So that meeting and that workshop will begin promptly at 2 p.m. today using this same link that was used for the Barr Advisory Group meeting. We're scheduled till 3:30 p.m. for that workshop, or until the close of business. So we might adjourn early if we get through things quickly enough, or if we get so many comments that we cannot close out that workshop at 3:30, we'll go as long as it takes to respond to those questions and comments. Anyway, we hope to see many of you at that workshop today. That is it thank you all for your attendance today. I look forward to seeing you at our next Bar Advisory Group meeting on Thursday, April 21, 2022. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
We are adjourned.
Thanks,
you,
Pat.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody. See you soon.
Thanks, everyone.